microphones. Welcome everybody. We have a really great speaker tonight, but I'm not going to introduce them. So I'm going to have Tom Barr come up. Tom, go ahead and introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Tom Barr.
Thank you.
This is Tom Barr, by the way.
Thank you. We did a lot of work to try and get Bart to come to the United States. He's from the Netherlands, and so English is not his first language. I guess Dutch isn't it? A little bit of Dutch.
They don't speak about
German and French. All the other languages. So he's been in the hobby for about 60 years, and so he finally figured out how to do it right. So he's done quite a bit of talks, and this is like his first time to the United States. He knows a lot of the Dutch aquascapists, and they have a whole sort of set of criteria they use for aquatic plant tanks and design. It's more considered more underwater garden. There's another style that's very popular as well called nature style, which involves a lot more hardscaping. This is almost purely plants. So the designs, it's very individualized. It's not a commercial thing, so it's very much a hobbyist level style and design, and really just trying to promote it. In their club, they've dropped numbers quite a bit, mostly due to the internet. But keep trying to promote certain styles, certain aspects of your hobby, and one-on-one in person rather than just over the internet. As we all know that you learn a lot more in person than you do over the internet, and you don't waste so much time and pain and money. So local clubs are very good. And without any more rambling, I'm going to let Bart take over and show us Dutch planted aquariums in the Netherlands.
All right.
Well, thank you, people. Yeah, it was a long journey from the Netherlands to America, and as Tom told, it is my first time that I'm here. But I enjoy it here very much. I've been to the HDA convention, and yesterday I was in San Francisco to do a talk. And yeah, I appreciate the kindness of the people who received me here. And I thank Tom because he has shown me a lot of your country in the past few days. Well, you asked me to come to show a little thing about the Dutch-style aquarium and the way tanks are kept in the Netherlands. And so the title of my presentation is Dutch-style aquarium. I will introduce myself a little bit. I'm told I'm about 70 years old, and I'm involved in the hobby from the time I was a little boy. I was 7 when I got my first aquarium. And in the course of time I had a lot of different kind of animals. I had a period that I was very much involved in keeping reptiles and amphibians. And as you see, I have had a lot of different animals in my terrariums. I'm married to what?
All right. I'm married to.
I'm married to a lady who has nothing to do with frogs, but she's Portuguese, and Portuguese is also a language that I speak a little bit, but it's very difficult. Difficult language, I think. Well, when I was 10 years old, I joined I joined the NBRT, that's the Dutch Aquarium and Terrarium Association. It exists from 1930 and had a big deal in the development of the way we think about the Dutch-style aquarium. I have had all kinds of animals, as I told, and I have a lot of experience with all different species of poison arrow frogs. This This is a species that comes from Suriname. It's Dendrobatus aureus, and I have had it in my terrarium and in my paludarium, and I have kept it and bred it, and yeah, it's a very nice animal to keep. That also is the case with a lot of reptiles that I have had, lizards, snakes, tortoises. I even have tried to establish a little reptile zoo in the place where I live in the Netherlands, in Zoetermeer. It was a project that took about 10 years of my life, and it cost me almost my life. And at the end of the time that I was involved in establishing it, I got heart attacks, and yeah, it was all too much and too stressful for me. And I have stopped that idea, and well, I returned to my own house and my own hobby, and that is dead until now. I'm a hobby photographer, and most of the pictures that you'll see tonight are made by myself, except for this one, of course. Difficult, maybe if I taken a picture from a mirror, I would succeed in something like this. But this picture was made by Willem van Wezel, a friend of mine who lives very near to where I live, in the city where I live, Zoetermeer. Just a few streets from my home, and we have narrow contact with each other, and we talk to each other almost every day, usually about the hobby and what's going on in the hobby. Well, I was invited to come to America by the HDA convention, and I was attended to the HDA convention by a friend of mine, Marco August in the Netherlands, who said to me that the HDA was organizing a competition in all kinds of categories of keeping aquaria, and also the Dutch style. And yeah, that was a little bit surprising for me, because I never thought that in America there would be a Dutch style aquarium that was popular. So I selected a number of photographs of my own aquarium, and I sent them to the HDA. And to my surprise, I got number 3 in the Dutch style aquarium, and yeah, that was a good result, I think. But yeah, it was not the best result, because yeah, there were other guys who had more points than I had for his aquarium. And one of them is, I can't read it from here, but it's Raymond Duindam. He's a Dutch guy who is also the national champion in the Netherlands in the NBT. And yeah, he has a very beautiful aquarium. And the second was Rick Verhulst, and Rick Verhulst was in that year was national champion in the Belgium competition. So yeah, there were 2 very nice aquariums that ended higher than I, and well, I didn't mind. It was nice to attend the competition, and the result was not disappointing for me. Well, if we look at the 2 aquariums, then you see that this is the aquarium of Raymond Duindam, the winner in that year in the Netherlands, and this is a typical example of a Dutch style aquarium.
I realize he doesn't like the white sauce.
It must be because it was number 1 in the competition in the Netherlands. And as you look at the picture, you see a number of characteristic subjects in the tank. One of them is that there are look-throughs, can I call it that, to the back wall in the aquarium. Places where no, sorry?
Vistas.
This,
Vista? Yeah, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
At least there are places where you can see the back wall of the aquarium, and that suggests us a kind of depth in the tank, and that is very important for the judges of the Dutch aquarium. Another thing that is important is that the groups of plants should not touch to each other. The aquarium should not be planted that dense that there is no view to the background, and also the plants must be separated a little bit from each other. It's not necessary that all the plants are separated from each other, but most of them. And another characteristic thing, sorry, are the Dutch streets, as they are called. Those are groups of plants which come from the front of the tank and go to the background of the aquarium. And they also are created there to suggest a kind of depth in the aquarium.
Bart, could I ask a question? Always. Is that a so on that one on the picture you showed of that, and I think you can back up with that.
Yes,
I believe. Well, that's forward.
This
Anyway,
one? This one.
back.
Right.
One more. No, you're going forward.
Well, I pushed the right button,
But it's a beautiful
Goes-
picture.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And so I was actually kind of struck. I don't know if that's a moss or what that is, but the shadow underneath it gives it a sense of size right there to
Yeah.
me. And I don't know. Is there something about the way that's placed so that it creates that kind of shadow and makes the whole thing look bigger? Or
Yeah.
is that just
I don't really know because of this picture I made, and I always use my flashlight flash to make the picture. So I don't know if the effect is the same as if it was lightened by only the light wood above the tank. But everything that creates a little bit more sense of depth is important and should be tried in the aquarium. Yeah?
beautiful?
Okay, yeah. Remarkable are the fishes that are in the tank, because in the Netherlands there is a kind of tendency, is that the right word? Tendency to keep only natural fish and not the breeding varieties.
You mentioned that you want to keep the separation. Does this mean this style needs constant care,
Yeah.
trimming?
The Dutch style aquarium is a very intensive, hardworking subject for the aquarist. Yes. It always takes a lot of money, a lot of time to keep them in shape. But it is allowed to use the breeding forms in the aquarium. So yeah, this Abistogramma is a very beautiful variety, but it's not the natural variety. The competition in the Netherlands is very different from the competition as the HGA does, because yeah, the HGA judges the aquaria and the tanks from the pictures that you send, and in the Netherlands we have certified judges who go along the houses and come into your room and even judge if the aquarium fits in the decoration of your room. Yeah? And an aquarium should be integrated in the decoration. And yeah, that is a very important subject. And it gives you points under in the category of first impression of the aquarium. Yeah?
Is this your house?
Sorry?
Is this your house?
No, this is the house of one of the members in the Netherlands. My house is later. Yeah. But it's a very nice tank, and it's a good example of a Dutch-style aquarium. The owner is Rick Verhulst, and he was the second in the HDA competition. Yeah. Well, in the Dutch style, it's also important that all the equipment used in and under and beneath the aquarium is out of sight as much as possible. Also, the tubes in the aquarium, the heating, all of the filters, everything that is used to make the aquarium function should be invisible as much as possible. And the judges look very sharp to that. This is so this is the Belgium winner, and yeah, it's also a very nice tank. He has a number of Congo salmons in his tank, and that brings me to my own rule about keeping fish in an aquarium. That is that I think that the bigger the fish, the smaller the tank becomes. And I like to keep small fish in a large aquarium to give them as much space as possible to behave as natural as possible. And I think that this aquarium is big enough for those fishes, so there's no problem. But I myself would have preferred smaller fish in such a tank. Well, there are a lot of plants available for the aquarist in the Netherlands concerning the decoration of his tank or his aquarium. And in the tank that we saw here, there are some species that are not very usual in the Netherlands. But yeah, there is a wide variety of species available. Well, you see, there is a lot of equipment beneath the aquarium, but they are behind doors, and that's okay. If it is a mess behind the doors, that's not very important. But the equipment must be safe, and the equipment must function in the right way. And yeah. It's a lot of stuff behind the doors, but if it functions in the okay, then the judges give you the points that you are entitled to. Well, this was my tank in 2015 when I joined the HDA competition, and you see. You could make some remarks about my tank. For instance, the plants here are a little bit too close to each other, and the decoration is a little bit too dense at that moment. But my tank is 3 meters and 10 centimeters long, contains about 1,000 liters of water. And at that moment I had about 40 species of plants in the tank. And it's a whole lot of work, and it is good planning, trimming the plants to the moment that the judge will arrive to judge your aquarium. Well, last year there was another competition of the HDA, but there was no one who attended me to that, and it passed without that I thought of it, and it had passed, and I didn't attend it. So yeah, I was a little bit sorry, but on the other hand, yeah, it's not very important, of course. But yeah, there were other people who attended it, and there was another winner, of course. And you see the aquarium here, and I've made a print screen of the photo. And as you see, it is a very nice and very good-looking aquarium with well and healthy growing plants, and yeah, good good combination of a variation of plants. But in the Netherlands, this aquarium would have much trouble to be number one, because there are some remarks that can be made by this aquarium. And as you see the next picture, you probably see what I mean. There's a kind of symmetric tendency in this tank, and that is also one of the rules that the Dutch judges look at. You must have a variety in the tank, so that there is no symmetric situation. But it's a very nice tank, and besides this point, it's a very healthy tank. But the plants are also again very dense planted and close to each other, and the suggestion of depth is very far from this tank. Well, when I constructed this presentation, and I was looking on the internet for information about the Dutch-style aquarium here in the USA. I found a very interesting article, and that was this one. It was from 2013, and it contained almost all the information that I thought that is important about the Dutch-style aquarium. So I used that article to take some sentences out of it, and I put them into my presentation. And we'll see the text now and then come into my presentation. Well, these are a few examples of variety in the plants in the Dutch-style aquarium. We always try to keep a lot of difference between the structure, the color, the size of the plants, and of the leaves, and as much difference.
Can I ask a question about how do you keep that from sending runners up to the surface? Do you just trim them and it makes a bush? Or?
Well, in the Dutch-style aquarium, it's usual that it is normal that you trim the aquarium about once a week. And
Well, that plant's that's not how that would grow in the wild. That's not in.
Which one?
Water lily.
This one?
The water lily, the center plant.
An nymphaea.
Nymphaea.
Yeah.
No.
So
you keep it low by cutting the leaves every moment they're growing too big. Yes. And when they are sending leaves to the surface,
You just cut
you
them off?
cut them as soon as you see it, and it's a matter of trimming, and then you can keep it low, and then you can make beautiful underwater plants from them. Yeah. It's another example. This is Amania gracibus, Hydrophila indica. This is Blixa japonica, Samolus floribundus, and Staurogin repens. It's a nice combination of plants, and these plants are on a regular basis available in the Netherlands. Well, another example. This is Rotala rotundifolia super rectus, it is called, and it's a little bit difficult at the moment. There are so many new species that come on the market, and there are so many genetically manipulated plants that look like the existing species. Yes.
Does the typical traditional Dutch rules favor natural plants and not favor manipulated or bred plants?
Yeah, they are preferred, but they're not demanded.
Okay.
Yeah. You can get less points because of having the varieties.
To get the lush growth, do you have to use carbon dioxide?
Yes, in almost every Dutch-style aquarium there is we call it CO2, available for the plants. And a lot of fertilizers and nutritions, depending on what kind of plants we are talking about. Well, just another example. I've experienced that my talk is much too long for for the meeting, and when I stay too long at one picture, you have to listen to me for more than 1.5 hours. So I have to hurry a little bit so now and then. Well, this is another Dutch tank, also situated in the living room, and yeah, you see what is suggested here. The chair situated in front of the aquarium, and I see the owner of the aquarium sitting in it and watching his aquarium and enjoying it. When I ended my reptile hobby, I thought that taking an aquarium would give me a lot of joy, sitting in front of the aquarium, looking at it, having a lot of quiet time, watching the plants, and it was one of the biggest mistakes in the past. Because, yeah, such a Dutch tank as I have, such a large one, it is such a lot of work, it's unbelievable. And I have a lot of light above the aquarium, and the plants are doing very well, and also sometimes very bad, because if you make a mistake in the balance of giving light and fertilizers, and then you get algiums, and the algiums in a small tank is not so very bad. In such a big tank, it takes some time before it leaves your aquarium. And, well, being nice is one thing. It's a nice aquarium, but the work and sitting in front of it, that was a little disappointing. Okay, not all the aquariums in the Netherlands are as beautiful as the aquariums that you have seen until now. There are also starting hobbyists who start with a smaller tank and with simple aquarium plants, and yeah, they don't have the experience that's necessary to make such a beautiful tank as the tanks here before. But in the Netherlands we have 3 levels of competition, and that's the club level, we have the regional level, and we have the national level. And all those levels are judged by the judges who come to your tank and who come to your house. So being a judge in the Netherlands, that takes some time, because sometimes they have 2 or 3 weekends needed to visit all the aquariums and judge them. It takes about 1.5 hour for each tank, so you know yeah, if there are 15 people who attend the competition, then that takes some time. Yeah. Well, before the club competition, the more experienced members of the local clubs go to the members who are starting and want to attend to the competition, and they give them advice how to improve their aquarium, what they can do to make the plants better grow, fertilizers, the whole stuff about improving and making the tank better. Yeah, but we always say the experience comes with the years, and as we started the aquarium, we also had to have advice. And I think that is an important subject, an important part that the clubs play in improving the quality of the hobby. Well, you see the intricate placement of grouping of plants help and create in-depth perspective within the aquarium by complementing each other in shape and color. So the shape and color of plants is very important, and your own creativity is also very important. It's also a nice tank in the Netherlands, and as you see, the furniture around the tank is integrated in the living room, and I think that such an aquarium would score high when the judge gives his judgment over the first impression of the tank. So these are a few examples of nice Dutch style aquarium. This is a tank of a good friend of mine, and he also lives in Zoetermeer in the Netherlands, in the village in the city where I live. And he's 10 years older than I, and he's very experienced. He also has an aquarium from his younger age, and he has also been a judge in his younger years, but he has stopped, and you can go to him any moment. His tank is always beautiful to see, but he has his own opinion about keeping an aquarium, and he says the judges they can do me wrong. It's my aquarium. I decide what I do with the tank, and yeah, I put the plants where I like, and yeah, the judge he doesn't mind, but he has his own opinion about keeping an aquarium. But the tank is always very beautiful, and yeah, the only remark that I can make about this aquarium is that the Limnophila aquatica is a little bit big, the group, and I'm sure that if the Dutchies would be in front of this aquarium, they would also say that. And for the rest, it's a very nice tank, and the plants are healthy. You see the Dutch street going to the back, and when you create a Dutch style street, then it is advised to let the street disappear behind another group of plants, because that also suggested depth and endlessness in the aquarium. And yeah, he has various plants that he has made streets of. This is Alternatera Reineke minor. And that's also a plant that I have in my tank, and it's very appropriate to create such a street. Well, the role of the fish in the Dutch aquarium looks like an additional one, but nevertheless is very important. The 3 areas of the tank should be filled with fish that amplifies the beauty of each of them. Schools of at least 12 fishes are preferred. Yeah, that's a rule that's sometimes difficult to maintain, because yeah, if you have a very small aquarium, then it is difficult if you have a larger fish to create schools of that number. But the judge would say, yeah, you also could have chosen smaller fish, and then you could have taken schools of 12 pieces. Yeah? Okay. It is necessary in the Dutch style aquarium that you have fishes in all the levels of the aquarium, at the surface, in the middle, and on the bottom. And this is not a fish presentation, but you know there are a lot of fishes available, and you also know which fish swims in what area in the aquarium. But this is an example of fish that you can have in your aquarium in the different areas of the tank.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What, in the 3rd photo on top, what is the fish there? I can't see it.
I can't see it either, but it is Jammergenus pusillus. Jammergenus pusillus. Top, what is it?
Tom, It's hard to see.
Dermogene is poisonous.
I can't see it on this TV.
You're saying it's a barb?
You can't see it up front.
We call it a dwarf pike.
Oh,
and-
At the surface.
half peak, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Resting
Okay,
half
thank
the
you.
time.
Okay.
Sorry for choosing this picture, but it is very suitable to keep at the
It's a
surface.
thin fish.
Yeah.
Does this style of aquarium utilize shrimp to eat algae like the nature aquarium does?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
You can have snails, you can have every kind of animal that lives in the water, but they should be fit. They should fit to each other. They shouldn't harm each other. That's the main point in choosing your fishes and other animals. Well, we go back to the several aquariums that I would like to show you, and here's the aquarium of Gerard Hogeveen from the Netherlands. And he also has a very nice tank. It's a little bit different from the tanks that I showed you until now. And one of the differences is that the tank has a lot of plants against the back wall. And in this case that is Hydrocotyl tripartitum. And that plant is very suitable to put there. I would have preferred that he would have made some places where you could see the back wall, but yeah, it's a very healthy and good-looking aquarium. Another remark that I can make with this aquarium is the plant that is standing here. In the Dutch aquarium, it is preferred that you do not plant plants in such a way that they divide the aquarium into two parts visible. Yeah, and this plant does that a little bit. So you also know here the golden rule about placing solitaire growing plants on 1/3 of the aquarium or on 2/3 of the aquarium, and that is the best place for situating such a plant. But for the rest, well, I just see it, and I haven't remarked it in my other presentation. But it's also a point that we are, the Dutch judges are very keen of. That is that the soil on the bottom should not be visible through the window. It should be hidden behind a line of decoration or furniture, trim in the aquarium. And the reason for it is that this is often a place here where algae begin to grow, and that is not nice to see, and it should be hidden behind the trims. Yeah? Some plants in this aquarium. I already said we have lots of plants available in the Netherlands, and there are still coming more, especially from Asia. There are a lot of plants developed and found and nursed, and yeah, sometimes it's very difficult to keep up with the incoming plants. Well, as I said before, the equipment should be safe and good functioning, and this is also a view underneath the aquarium. Light is also very important above the tank, and in the Netherlands we use a lot of Philips combinations, Dutch companies. So yeah, it's very well known in the Netherlands. But there are several series of lamps. We usually see the 8 series, but in this tank it was the 9 series that was there. And if you are interested in the Philips series, then you should look on the internet, look them up, and look at their specifications. In my tank, I usually use the 830, the 840, and the 865. Those are a very good combination for growing plants in a Dutch-style aquarium. Well, in the course of time, there has been a lot of development in the equipment that is available in the aquarium hobby. And as I told you, the Dutch NBAT was established in 1930, but long before that there were people who were trying to keep a tropical aquarium. And I have a book in my bookshelf that's from 1928. And there are a lot of technical solutions for your aquarium available, and I would like to show you a few. One of them is a heating for an aquarium, and that consists of a glass tube that is going into the tank, yeah? And it is heated by a candle, just a flame underneath. And the warm water that rises in the tubes, it goes into the aquarium, warms up, heats the water, and then goes back to the flame and is heated again. Yeah, it's very. We cannot imagine that they have worked with those kind of technical stuff. Another nice example is this collection of aquariums above on a table with a gas heater beneath it. Just flames like you are cooking your dinner.
Salmon.
And that's the way that they had to do it technical way. Yeah. But yeah, we are lucky to have much more developed equipment, and there's a lot of stuff available at the moment. And when you compare this with the last picture, then you see that there has been a lot of stuff developed for the aquarium. And we are lucky to have it and to control our aquarium in a proper way.
Question?
Yeah.
So on that last slide, you showed a photograph of an Eheim filter, heater.
Yeah.
I purchased a heater that had a European label that says it cannot be submersed in the water. But in the United States, it's perfectly submersible, but they said that they had to put the label on the box because in Europe, it's illegal. Do you know anything about that?
No, I've never heard of that. No.
Okay.
It was a heater that
It
was
was a heater. It
allowed
was an Eheim heater, and it has a line on it. It says water level. Do not submerge below this line. And I called the company, and they said it's because of a European law.
I never heard of that because we have heaters just like
They go out completely
and they're
underwater.
completely dumped
Yeah.
into the water and kept under the water and is completely safe.
Okay.
But maybe it was a very old type of heater. That
I bought
I remember
it last,
that
I
when-
bought it last year. I don't know.
Eric, if I could just,
It was all stuck.
it was true of Ehives in Canada. You weren't allowed to submerge them.
It was
Okay.
the Canadians,
They
not the
said, they
Europeans.
said it was a European
But the
rule
law was you couldn't.
for Canadians.
No, we
Okay.
have just
Who's the
heaters like you have.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Canadians are playing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, next speaker from the Canadian youth. Yes?
Damn Canadians.
Okay, some people go very far in having equipment underneath their aquarium of besides their ponds. This is the technical installation for a koi pond, and yeah, you see every part of the water is regulated by this equipment, and the only thing that the owner has to do is to look at it so now and then. For the rest, it takes care of itself. But this is the equipment behind the aquarium of the Dutch winner of the Dutch competition in 2015 that I showed you. There's also a very impressive installation that's here behind this tank. The tank itself is in the other room on the other side of the wall, And he has a small room behind it, and this is his technical installation. And I thought he was a plumber, and that's maybe the reason that he is able to do to make such a very complicated system. I think that I would it would take me days before I could invent how all this works, but it works, and he has a very beautiful tank. Well, the Dutch Aquarium and Terrarium Association, MBT, it was established in 1930, as I told several times. It has a nice website at the moment, but the number of members have diminished very, very dramatically in the past 10 years. 20 years ago, the association consisted of about 30,000 members, and at the time now, there are only 1,800 members. So there is very domestic diminishing in the number of members. And that has a lot to do with the internet. Young people don't want to join the clubs where they gather with the old guys who are grey and think that they know a lot about aquarium. But yeah, it is a problem in the Netherlands, and I heard that it is also here in your country.
Has the hobby decreased also, or
no? The hobby flows
so
very well.
So
No
they're
problem.
getting all their info off the internet and not needing to go to a club.
Yes, they find all the information, good or bad, on the internet. Yeah. That's a problem, and we try to draw their attention by giving courses and doing all kind of things for them. Yeah.
Do you start out with full-grown adult plants, or do you plan ahead and start with little ones when you're going to enter a competition and let it grow to its potential?
That depends on what friends you have. Where you are no member of a club, then you have to go to the fish store and buy your plants. And usually they sell emerged grown plants. Yeah, and then it takes some time to let them grow submerged, and yeah, that takes 6 weeks, about months, 6 weeks. Yeah. But when you're a member of a good club and you have good friends in the aquarium business, then you can get them from them. And I monthly give away big quantities of plants to the members of my club. Yeah.
Join a club.
Join the club. Yeah. Now the National MBT Society publishes a magazine, a nice, beautiful magazine, and this is an example of it. But 50 years ago, that magazine was a little bit smaller and more simple, and I still try to get a few examples of the first edition, but they're gone. It's impossible to find them in the Netherlands. So this is an example of the second edition. It's also very old. In that magazine, the results of the competition are shown, and as you see here, there are a number of participants who have points, and you see the name of Wiedenhof. He was winner in 2016, and we'll see his aquarium later. But not only the how do you call it, the community aquarium is judged by the judges. We have also different categories in the aquarium business, as you can see here. The usual community aquarium, the planted aquarium, category A1. The special aquarium with fish and plants, A2. And that means that the fish and the plants should be from the same place. So only Asian fish or Asian plants or North American fishes and plants, that makes a special aquarium. Special aquarium with mainly fish, and special aquarium with color and breeding forms. Mainly fish, that's the cichlids from Africa, for instance. And then we have saltwater terraria and ponds. Now here we are in an aquarium that was attended the club competition. And you see it's a very simple aquarium, but it is nice. And we advised the owner of this aquarium, and we advised them to put more light above this aquarium, because the entenodion of the plants were very large, and the plants were growing too fast, and yeah, that's all signs that there is a lack of light above the tank. That was another house where we came to advise the owner of the aquarium, and yeah, it was very particular. We went inside and we saw the babies. There were several babies, and they were very silent. So we were very silent when we entered the room. But after a while, it stayed silent. The babies didn't move, so we asked the owner, and he said, "Oh, that's a hobby of my wife. She collects dolls." Yeah, it was very special. But as you see, as well as the dolls, as the aquarium is integrated in the colors of the living room, and although this is a very nice tank, there is something to say about it. For instance, the fish that he has in his aquarium. We see here, for instance, the breeding form of Puntius sumatranus. You know that fish? It's a albino breeding form.
Tiger barb is what we call it here.
Tiger barb, yeah. That's the name I yesterday heard. Okay, I forgot. But that's a typical school fish, and that's typical one of the fish that I would say about take more pieces of them, because they like it to be in schools, and yeah, it's sad for them if they are if there's just a pair of them. The blue one, there are two blue ones. Oh, again. This is Apistogramma ramirezi, the electric blue that you saw before, and the other one is the cardinal tetra. And there are a lot of other species of fish, so we advised them to diminish the number of species and to enlarge the schools so that the fish could be happier. And I think that's a very good thing to do. Well, this is the tank of a friend of mine, also in the place where I live. It's a very beautiful tank, but the owner is just started a year ago, and yeah, he has it in his fingers to make a nice tank. But the remark that I can make in this tank, with this tank, is that there are very many species of plants. And in the Dutch style aquarium, it is advised, it's not a duty, but to keep not more plants, then you have decimeters front glass in your tank. So when you have a tank of 2 meters, you can have 20 species of plants. With a tank of 3 meters, you can have 30 species of plants. It's an indication, and it is not a duty, but when I started my tank,
If he had smaller plants, would it be okay to have more plants? Or is it just he has too many plants?
no, it's just he has too many plants.
plants.
Smaller plants make it even more
Okay.
busy in the tank than
Okay.
than it. Quietness in the quiet view of the aquarium is very important for the Dutch tower. But this guy, he said, yeah, the aquarium is not only mine, it's the aquarium of the family, and they can decide too. So if the children say, I want that fish or that plant, yeah, then we sit on the table, we discuss, and the most people who want that, they decide. So yeah, it's democracy. And, yeah, that's the way it goes in that family. Yeah, but the children are very fond of the tank, and it's also important that the children like the tank and are busy with it, and can sit in front of it and look at the fish, and yeah, that's a nice way to have a tank. This is the aquarium of the regional winner in my region where I live, and it's a few weeks after the judgment had been in front of his aquarium. So he was already changing a few things, and his aquarium was not at its top at the moment that I was there to make pictures of it. It's a very nice tank, and very interesting fishes and plants in it. One plant that I hadn't seen before, that is this one. That is the plant that you see here on the surface. In the Dutch style aquarium, it is very often used to have plants that grow like a kind of a curtain beside the tank, and that's also giving an intention of depthness in the tank. Yeah? Lobelia, that is a plant that I've never seen before, but he called it by this name, and he had a card of the plant when he bought it that says it's that species. And I have looked it up on the internet, and the picture that I have shown you here, I have taken from the internet, and there is a certain resemblance between the plants, but in my opinion it could also be stellata, for instance. Very beautiful Avistogramma McMastery, yeah. And one of the most popular plants in the Netherlands is this one. You see it in almost every tank. It's Hygrophila uniformis.
And we have some here tonight.
Yeah, okay. I'll do some advertising for you. Okay. The judge will review the aquarium base of 15 subjects, and the main subjects are biological, aesthetic, and general. In general, that means the first impression and the technique that you have used in the aquarium. Key aspects in the Dutch aquarium: the health of the fish, the health of the plants, very important. Water parameters, selection of plants using color, contrast, selection of and compatibility, a number of fish in comparison to the size of the aquarium and environmental conditions. General design and layout. These are a few rules that you have to take care of when you attend the competition. And this was the winner of the year in 2016, Mr. Wiedenhoff. Very nice tank, neatly integrated in the decoration of his room. And yesterday they made a remark that they said, yeah, you said there should be no plant that divides the tank into two parts, but this plant does that a little bit. Yeah. And then I looked at the picture and I said, yeah, you are a little bit right. But yeah, I'm not a judge in this case. But I also thought, here's a red plant and here's also a red plant. And it's not usual to put two red plants together. So yeah, it still is the best aquarium in the Netherlands at the moment. There was no better at the moment. But the remarks were right, I think.
Would it have been better if he just kept that one middle plant trimmed down a little bit more so it wouldn't divide the tank so much?
Yeah, that would have been better, yes.
How long do these setups last in good condition to have to be redone?
One day.
One day.
Where you have good growing plants, it's very, very difficult to maintain the best situation for a certain moment. And yeah, the plants don't stop growing, so there's indeed one moment that's the best moment to attend the competition. But yeah, that makes it kind of sports.
Yeah. Bart, I have a question.
Yeah.
He was holding a big trophy. What's it cost to enter the competition?
It doesn't cost anything.
Really?
No. It's paid by the National Association, and the clubs pay money to the association, but the member itself, they don't pay anything to attend.
So what are club dues?
Sorry?
Club dues?
What does it cost?
Club? Yeah, it's not so very much. I think $50 per member who attends the competition. Usually there are no more than 10 members is a lot that attend the competition. Yeah. Well, I thought it might be interesting to see how many plants of what kind of plants are used in the Dutch aquarium, and this is the list of the winner of 2016. This is the regional winner, and this is my own tank. And the red plant is the plant that is in all the aquariums. You see it mentioned here, here, and here. Biflovilla deformis, the plant you are going to sell in the auction. Yeah.
Take it, please.
And the blue ones are represented in two of the aquariums. A little bit less common. And the white plants are only found in that aquarium where they're mentioned in the list. And that gives you a little bit of an impression of the variety of plants that we have available in the Netherlands. If you would look at the more beginning members, then you would see a much more overlap in the species of plants. Same plants in the different aquariums.
What did you say the three columns were? 3 different years or 3 different winners?
It's 3 different tanks in 1 year.
In 1 year.
Yeah. Only I am not the winner. I have compared it with my own tank. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, a lot of your pictures show tanks in like dining areas and more dining areas than actual living rooms. Is that the preferred placement for a lot of?
It's not preferred, but it is usual in the Netherlands that you put your aquarium in the living room. But it's not a demand. You can put it everywhere that you want, but it should be integrated in the decoration of the room where it is. Yeah? It should not be too massive. It should be not be too small. I have the tank on in the attic in my hobby room. It's also a good place. Yeah.
So many of the photographs show aquariums that are wider than a stand. Is that the preference in the Netherlands?
Well, light is a very important issue in having a Dutch tank. And the higher the tank is, the more difficult it is to grow the plants on the lower part of the aquarium. So the lower the aquarium, the more lights the plants have, and the better suitable for the Dutch tank. Yeah? 50 centimeters is about the highest tank used for a Dutch style aquarium. You see a lot of 60 centimeter high aquaria, but they must add more light to get the same results as the lower tanks. Here it is again, the Hygrophila biformis. This is the left side of the tank of the winner, and you see that this is a real Dutch garden, and here you see the curtainizing of the Vallisneria. It's very beautiful. This is the other side, and there are also some different plants. What have I wrote down here? The most important requirement for agriculture, yeah, you must have a very extensive knowledge of plants. It's very important that you know the characteristics of plants. Do they grow fast? Do they grow slow? Do they keep low? Are they growing wide or just small? And that's all important for that one moment that the judge is in front of your aquarium, and you want them to be in a certain shape. And it has occurred that I had to trim some groups just the day before I knew the judge was to come, and I took the risk of the water in my aquarium not being totally clear by taking out the plants and having some troubles in the water. Yeah?
Question?
Yeah.
As you've shown these plants, the one plant I haven't seen is the Madagascar lace leaf. Is that a plant that you tend to avoid?
Aphanophyton fenestralis.
Yeah, I didn't see it in any photos. It's one.
No, it's not 30 years ago, it was a very popular plant in the Netherlands. At the moment, you just see them very seldom at the moment.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
It's not quite impossible to raise in captivity, but it doesn't reproduce very well, and it's almost gone in the wild, so they don't collect it anymore.
Okay, yeah, that's a good reason.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, where do we get our plants from? No, from the local fish source, of course, and from the nurseries that nurse the plants. And here is a view in the nursery in Honselersdijk. There's very few very small village near the place where I live. All the plants are nursed, emerged, and yeah, sometimes it's very difficult to judge what form and shape they will have when they are in the emerged form. This is a very large nursery from Aquaflora, from Esther Maus. She has also attended the HGA convention, and she's very well known in the aquarium business.
How do the plants do when you submerge them?
How do they do? Yeah, that's very different. Usually the plants adapt to the new situation and make their submerged form. and all the immerse form leaves, they melt and
But doesn't that
they
cause
disappear.
issues
But
when those leaves melt?
Yeah, the immersed form disappears, and the new form is growing out of the immersed form.
Right.
Yeah. It's not so difficult. It usually gives no troubles. Yeah.
Since you know you're going to have this meltdown, do you have that occur in a different aquarium and wait till they're in their immersed form to move them to your shell aquarium?
Yeah, that depends. I have no second aquarium. I have to do it in my own tank, but my tank is that large that the impact of having such an immersed plant is not so very big.
Okay.
How long is the time frame? Like if you get one from this nursery and you submerge it, what are you looking at before the immersed leaves are gone? And
That's about in 3 weeks. The first submerged formed leaves are showing up, and in about 2 months you have a beautiful.
so you don't do it the week before the competition?
Yeah, if I have planted a plant to be in a certain shape for the competition, indeed, I have to. Yeah, but having a certain percentage of immersed plants in your aquarium is not bad for the judge.
Oh, they don't care?
They don't. Yeah, if you have just a few, then it is not so important. But if you have only submerged plants, then they see that it's a very new aquarium, and then it is not appreciated very highly. Yeah. This was the tank of the Belgian winner. You see that the style of his tank is a little bit different than the style of the Dutch style aquarium. There are more low-growing front plants, and I've seen this a lot in the Belgian aquariums. What? You see? Very large fields of low-growing plants, and the green in front all plants are green. There's almost no Belgian tank. There is a red plant in the front. Lagenandra is a very new plant in the Netherlands. It's compared with Cryptocorinne, but I think it's a little bit more difficult than most Cryptocorinnes, and it has very much a tendency to melt in the beginning. Only when it is in the tank for a longer period, then they begin to grow better. Monte Carlo is a very much used plant in the nature style, and it is also a carpet forming plant that grows very fast and can be easily trimmed. I heard that this Cryptocorinne is a rather rare plant in the aquarium here in the United States, and also in the Netherlands. You don't see it very often, so it was nice to see the plant in this aquarium.
Quick question.
Yeah.
What is the grassy plant in the foreground? Is that
I think that this is Ignorus canalis. This was the filter installation and the technical equipment that I've shown you before in the Belgian winter tank. Well, this is another Dutch style tank, and this is also a tank that I should remark.
the plants are very dense planted, no views to the background. But I can assure you that this plant was, photo was taken one day before he had to trim the tank. So you can see what happens when you are a little bit late with that. This is a very well-known aquarist in the Netherlands. He is Willem van Wezel. If you are on the internet and on Dutch forums, you will always find this name. He's very popular, and he has been a national winner in the Netherlands, I thought in 2008 or 2003. But he has a very, I think, weird way of keeping an aquarium, because he once a 3 weeks, he takes out all the plants of his aquarium and he makes a new decoration. And you can come this time, and 4 weeks later you find a totally different aquarium. And, yeah, that's his way of keeping his tank. It's not my way, because I think it's very stressful for the fish to do that. I prefer to. Yeah, moving the furniture is about the same. But he has, he's very creative, and he can create a very nice tank. Yeah.
In most of the tanks, do they ever use driftwood?
Driftwood. Well, in the Dutch style tank in the Netherlands, I've never seen driftwood. And that's also a rule in the Dutch style aquarium scaping. When either you use wood, or you use stones, or you use nothing. But not a combination of stones and wood in the same aquarium. Judges will always give you less points if you do that. Yeah?
Why?
Yeah, because it's a matter of, yeah, how do we call it?
Appearance.
Yeah, the site of the aquarium is much more quiet, easy, harmonious.
I'm too busy.
Yes.
It's too busy to use different materials.
Okay.
Yeah? Just a few in his tank. Yeah. So he was champion in 2008. This is the equipment beneath his aquarium. You asked me about the CO2 that we use in the Netherlands. We have invented in Zoetermeer, where I live, that the fire extinguishers are very suitable to provide CO2, and we can become very easy and very cheap when they are overdate. And we have found a supplier who has lots of those overdate tanks, and yeah, we buy them for just a few euros, and it's much more cheap than buying it from the shops. Well, this is Willem van Wezel. I was in the weekend with him, and he had already taken out all the plants. He was washing the soil and replacing the plants, and this is a series of photos that are made in one weekend.
Oh my God.
He has a nice way of creating a nice Dutch-style aquarium, and he is able to attend a competition and had decorated a week before. It's unbelievable.
You make me feel very inadequate.
That's not the intention of this presentation, but it's the reality.
Rocks and wood. That's it, rocks and wood.
Well, this is his son. He lives in the same house with his parents, and he has an aquarium on the other floor. And he always has a very neat tank, and he has his own style, but it's also a typical Dutch style tank. The white beaches that you see here are offered to the Corridoras that he has in his tank. And that's also, the fish is very important in judging a Dutch style aquarium. And when the fish demands certain circumstances in the aquarium and they are not provided, then you can have less points in the appreciation of the judge.
Quick question.
He's also very neat in making his equipment beneath the tank. Everything with nice tubes and very nice to see. Yeah, this is what we call it a red woolweed. It is a kind of algae of a weed that grows in some aquaria, and it especially grows on wood. So it's impossible to remove it from tank to tank unless you take a piece of the wood with it, and then you put it with a needle to the back wall, and then it's possible to that it stays alive in your tank. Another friend of ours, we are with a club of older people who have all beautiful, nice Dutch-style aquariums, and this is another example of that. Yeah, these are low-growing plants that help to create a Dutch street. Here's such a Dutch street, and as I said, it would be nice to see a street disappear behind another group of plants.
One question.
Okay, yeah.
Do you ever use many of the Sagittarius species?
Yeah, we use them. It's a grass-like plant.
Would that be something you would use for making?
Yeah, but Sagittaria is growing taller than Echinodorus tenalis, for instance, and therefore it's suitable to use in the front, but only in the bigger aquaria. Yeah.
When you have an ascending street that disappears, do you mound the soil to make it ascend, or is it a matter of trimming?
No. Yeah, so usually it's a combination, because we have a little higher going soil bottom in the tank, but the difference in height, so low in front and high going higher, is created by trimming the plants and have them grown taller at the back. Yeah?
What do you use for soil?
We use kind of gravel for soil. Some people use sand, but most people in the Netherlands use gravel, and that's a gravel that's available in the fish stores. And the size of the gravel is 1.5 millimeter to 2 millimeters.
Is there iron in it at all, or just?
No, there's no iron in it.
So you fertilize separately?
Yeah, we fertilize separately by using clay, in which we mix with spur elements and iron, and we add other liquid fertilizers from the fish stores. Yeah.
The clay, is that in the filter material, or how do you introduce that to the water?
The clay is made in small balls, about 1.5 centimeters, and we can make them ourselves, but we also can buy them in the shops. And we put them into the soil near the roots of the plants.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So like it's a pellet sort of that you put right into the
Yeah,
soil?
yeah. That's the way we do it. And we make a difference between real water plants and the plants that grow in the swamps. And the swamp plants that we use in the aquarium, those plants we provide with the clay. And the real aquarium water plants, we give liquid fertilizers. Yeah? Okay, you all know the nature style aquarium. That's a style that I'm not very familiar with. During the HGA convention, I've seen many examples of that, and I must say that I'm impressed by what the nature style is able to perform. But yeah, I'm a Dutch style guy, so I look at it, admire it, and I see the examples on the internet, and I think they're very beautiful, but they're totally different from the Dutch style, and I've only a few examples of them stolen from the internet in my presentation. You know those tanks, and this is a totally different way of keeping and creating an aquarium. And you can find all these pictures on the internet. But in the Netherlands, we are now and then trying to create those nature-style tanks. And on the last Vivarium event that we had in the Netherlands, there was a competition of creating such a nature-style aquarium, and here are the results of the nano tanks that were used for that. Now, yeah.
I remember that we had somebody here not long ago that was going to talk on aquascaping, American style, whatever, and introduced us to the micro tanks the Japanese were doing, where they would do these little 2 by 2 inch cubes, and they would have waterfalls and all sorts of really interesting things. Do they have anything like that with the Dutch style in the Netherlands, where they're moving to the micro?
Not at all.
So it's always the bigger tanks.
It's always the bigger tanks, and always the I think the meter is about the smallest Dutch style aquarium that you can find in the Netherlands.
Obrigado.
The Netherlands. Now, at the end I will tell you a little bit about my own aquarium, how it was created and what it consists of. And as you see, my aquarium is 3 meters and 10 centimeters, 65 centimeters wide and 50 centimeters deep. And when I decided to keep that tank, I had a problem, because the glass couldn't brought upstairs over the stairs, and my hobby room is in the attic, so I had a little problem. But there was a moment that we decided to take a bigger dormer room on the roof. Oh. And at the moment that that was built, the glass was brought into the room in the attic, and that was the only moment in my life in Zoetermeer, in this house, that I could take that glass in. And
did you carry it up the outside?
Not me, but the man who delivered the glass took it on his shoulders, and he brought it up on that, how do you call that, a ladder.
Wow.
Yeah?
Wow.
Yeah, it was horrible to look at, I was very glad that there was no wind at that moment.
Yeah.
It didn't rain because I saw his fingers lying down beneath on the floor. And, all kind of horrible cues passed by my eyes. But he brought it safely upstairs, and yeah. I had a friend who is very experienced in gluing the glass together, and he has helped me to create this tank. It can never be brought downstairs, so I have to be living in that house.
Yeah.
Yes. I think so, I'm afraid of it. Yeah. But yeah, such a large tank needs a hood that is made out of 2 parts, because it is training every day when you have a hood in one piece above the aquarium. So I made a hood consisting of 2 parts, and it was a good size, 1 meter and 60 centimeters, and that was suitable for the lamps, the bulbs, the tubes that were fixed in the hood. Electric connections, all handmade and created by myself. I had a dual back wall, and if I should do this ever again, I would never choose for such a back wall again, because yeah, the Dutch style aquarium is very dense planted, and you see nothing of the back wall, except for a few holes in between the plants, and they should be black. But yeah, my wife gave me those ones for my anniversary that year, and they are very, very beautiful. But I wouldn't choose them again. Here you see the 2 parts of the hood, and it can be separated, opened to enter the aquarium. Ventilation. There are 8 tubes, each 55 watt. It's a lot of energy and a lot of money each month to pay the bills.
They're T5s.
Sorry?
They're T5 bulbs.
No, T8. T8. They're a little bit bigger, but they're giving not so much heat as the T5. T5 gets very warm. And the efficiency is about the same. Well, these are some parts of the technical installation. I have a big AHAM beneath my aquarium, beneath my tank, and I have extended it to 2 pieces of them. So there was a lot of filtration in the aquarium. This was the situation in October 2007. Here are some plants growing in my aquarium in my tank. Red plants have always grown very good in my tank, and they are very nice to see, and make a nice difference with the green plants beside it. This is Bacopa australis, and that can grow in 2 ways. It can grow to the surface, but it also can crawl over the bottom of the tank. That's, that plant only does that when there's enough light to do it. This is Tegenodorus kleiner beer. And the younger plants are very nice red. The older they become, the more brown they get, and the bigger they grow. And It has nothing to do with klein, which means small in German language. Flowers of Echinodorus Kleinebar. Nice to see them flower, and nice to see the young plants grow at the end of the stems of the flower stem.
They're curling, the bubbles? On the left, are those bubbles?
Yeah, that is oxygen that comes from the plant. That is Rotala macranda. It's a very, it's supposed to be a very difficult plant, but in my take it has always grown very beautiful, and it was always very colorful. And my friend Willem van Wezel, he always said, next week when I come, that plant has disappeared. And he said that 2 years later, still, yeah. But the plant stayed, and it was very beautiful. You see, it's very nice red color and very nice formed. This is Aquarium azureus, also a plant that you don't see very often. It is not a very rare plant, but it's a very nice plant to use as a solitary plant. One of the fastest growing plants that I ever had in my aquarium is Chinacina rivularis. It grows about 10 centimeters per day, I think. And I have put that plant away, and I am not waiting for more work than I already have. So this plant is, it demands a lot of care. It is a nice plant, and the fast-growing plants always are good for the water quality, and it's always good to have some real water plants in your tank. But you see, they cover the whole surface of the aquarium, and yeah, they need to be trimmed at this moment. These are the clay balls that I talked about, where I put the fertilizer, the spur elements in, and the iron, and the iron gives them the color that they have. Easy Life is a very well-known brand in the Netherlands, and yeah, that's also the brand that I use. For the rest, I have no involvement with this brand. When there is a disbalance between your fertilizing and the light and the way you handle your tank, then you can have problems, and the problems are not seldom in the Netherlands. And here you see the result of algae growing in my tank in a certain period that I had my tank, and yeah, then you have to restore the balance in neutralizing your plants, and yeah, that can take some time. But this is a plant that I had from the beginning that I started my aquarium, Hygrophila balsamica, very beautiful plant. But when it's covered with algae, there's nothing beautiful anymore. So my Amania gracilis, and also covered with algae. They're not nice to see, but yeah.
Speaking of algae, how do you keep it down? I mean, is something in there eating it?
Sorry, how we keep it down? Yeah.
How come they're not covered in algae?
I control it by a good balance in fertilizing and in combination with the light. And as there is usually, most of the times that I was confronted with algae, it was when I forgot that my CO2 tank was empty. And yeah, I've seen that several times, that when the CO2 was empty, the algae started to come. And when you're in time to solve it and put another bottle behind your tank, then the problem goes over very quickly. But yeah, when you let it go, then you see this result.
So when you do get it, what do you do?
Well, the only thing that I do is restore the balance. So I put another CO2 in it. I cut
The algae disappears?
the algae. You see it here.
Yeah.
You see it here. The plants are growing through the algae, as you see. The new leaves are clean. So what I do is I cut the plants. I only replant the tops, and I throw away the leaves and the stems with the algae.
So you're not using any fish to eat it off?
There's no fish in the world, as I think, that can eat so much algae as in such a tank as mine. It's impossible. And when you use fish to eat the algae keep growing. You should restore the balance in your tank. That's the only real solution.
To keep it from growing to begin with?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, these are some of the fertilizers that I use. And I don't know, do you have the brand Denolay here? No, it's a very familiar. It's a very familiar brand in the Netherlands and in Europe, and they have very good fertilizers in the form of capsules. But I make my own capsules. Do you call it capsules? With the fertilizers? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I buy spur elements, iron, and you can't read it. And I buy the capsules here, and I fill them myself with the spur elements and the iron, and it's very good. It proved to me to be very good to help the plants grow.
Do you fertilize at a time, or do you test first to see what's needed?
No, all the time, all the time. And
but like once a week, do you put more
no,
fertilizer in?
I always do it when I renew the plants, when I trim the plants, when I take the group of plants out, I cut them and I put the tops back in the ground. And before I do that, I put some 1 or 2 capsules in the bottom. Yeah. Well, I have some equipment to fill the capsules, and this is an easy equipment for it. Yeah. I mix the powder, the iron, and the spur elements. I wipe it into the capsules, and the tops of the capsules are in the other part, and I push them together, and that way the capsules are filled, and that gives good results. And I'm very satisfied about it. Well, you see my tank. You see it is a nice example of the Dutch style. And this was the tank when I left it to go to America. And I hope that it still is that way when I come back. It's also very nice to see the end at the day, and to lower the light and to finish the day. And that was the end of my talk.